Hi, welcome to Stranger Conversations. I'm Sean, and on this podcast, I'm here to bring you stories about what it's like to take unlikely paths to career and to life. You'll hear from regular folks about traveling to wild locations, changing their lifestyles, starting new ventures, getting in over their heads, and still managing to land on their 2 feet. This is a recording of the live conversations in our Clubhouse community, and if you can join us live, please do. It's a lot of fun. Link is in the description. Hey everyone, welcome to Stranger Conversations, and thanks for joining us this Saturday morning. For today we've got Phyllis Chua. Really excited to have her with us.
Hey everyone.
Hey. You're a little soft. Maybe could you either adjust your volume, speak up a little bit?
Does it sound better?
Oh yeah, much better.
Cool.
Right, we've got a nice crowd today. I'm your host, Sean, and who's my co-host for today?
My name is Yushan. Nice to meet you guys.
And
And
we've
Lynn
also-
here as well.
Cool. Like we've got two co-hosts, Yoshan and Lynn. So once again, we have with us Phyllis Chua. And when I was introduced to Phyllis a little while back, and I heard that she went and became a teacher in Japan without a single word of Japanese. Is that right, Phyllis? Like zero, right? Nada.
That's almost right. I actually tried to learn some Japanese before I went, so I could say some things like thank you, I eat apples. Yeah.
That's good, right? So at least you won't starve, right? And,
Yeah.
and the thing is that you just jumped into it and you taught there for 3 years. So to me, that's like so fearless, That's so like, embodying the Nike spirit, right? Like just do it, And I think that's the theme, right, for today's session, which is how do you just jump into things? How do you embrace doing things, living life your own way, right? So we'll get to that shortly through various stories from Phyllis. But first, why did we start this club in the first place, right? The purpose of this club is really to bring together people from different backgrounds, but who are all pursuing some sort of unlikely path to career and to life. And we have had a few sessions already. What I find fascinating is that no matter the person, there's always something to learn from the stories that person has, from personal experience. And it really doesn't have to be from an expert. So hopefully through these stories, maybe you get the itch to try something different yourself. And anyway, it's good fun to have these stories on a Saturday morning. Before we jump into things, just want to make sure that all of you here are comfortable with the room being recorded. So if you are staying in, you need to know that and be okay with it. And second, we want to make this very fluid, very interactive. And at any time you want to ask a question or say something, just raise your hand and the moderators will cue you in. So, the theme of this club is called Stranger Conversations. And I'm a stranger to Phyllis, but actually Lynn and Phyllis go way back, right?
Do like I think 8 years maybe.
Yeah, almost 10 years. So I met Phyllis when I was still a freshman in university. And when I knew her, she was also doing fearless things. In a way, she was my orientation camp leader, the dance choreographer, but I don't think she ever had, she didn't really take dance classes before that. She just went straight into it because she loved the atmosphere. She wanted to bring joy to everyone through her dancers. So when I met Sean and he said he was doing this project and he wanted to find people who suit whatever he mentioned, that description of people who pursue their own path, Phyllis was one of the first few people that came to my mind. Yeah, so it's really cool. Like after so long, usually people. I mean, during university, people are like more daring to take risks and everything. But up to now, I would say that Phyllis is still doing the same thing, and that's the special thing about her, lah.
This is so funny because when you actually shared about that, right? I think 8 years ago, yes, I ended up being a dance choreographer for a university performance, and you know how people talk about imposter syndrome. Well, let me tell everyone here that that was me being a true imposter. It's not just a syndrome; it's me being imposter because like I really didn't have a lot of good dance background. I took ballet till I was 8 years old, but yeah, what we did was far from ballet. Think more like mass dance, your funny chicken dance, and then you add a little more moves to look cool.
Yeah, and there were
So
like 50 people under her at least.
yeah, and I think it was all just great fun. And yeah, so I remember Lynn being very she was a little shy, not very confident, but she was an excellent dancer. She had a lot of punch and a lot of good vibes to the team as well, always being so positive and bubbly. So I think Lynn I think one of the biggest takeaways from our dance um performance was actually like the friendships that we made, and it was really really great fun. So thanks Lynn for calling me up and like hitting me up and asking me to join here, join this conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's because of like it is amazing, right? Like, it has been 8 years since we first met. In between, it's not like we actually talked a lot. But then when I reached out to you, you were so happy to join this thing. And then I was also very curious what was on your mind, because when I talked to you, okay, you talked about imposter syndrome when you were doing that dancing, and then when I invited you to join this, you also like, oh no, am I too boring? I say a lot of filler words. Oh no, I don't think I'm the kind of person you want. But at the same time, you still managed to say yes and you take that step forward. So I'm quite curious about like what's the thought process there, because a lot of us know that being uncomfortable leads to growth, but I don't think a lot of people actually do that. So yeah, it'd be great if you can share more about
I think
how you do that.
Okay, I think it's nothing really too cool. In fact, it may sound really cliche, but I think I kind of I don't believe in like living life with regrets, right? So I also end up overthinking the things that I want to do and making the decisions that I want to make. But like I just don't want to miss out on certain opportunities. So I feel that I should just go out there, put myself in an uncomfortable but potentially really fun situation. And I think maybe the element of fun is a big motivator as well. So I do a lot of things, and then I think that if this is going to give me a lot of happiness, there's a potential to make me feel like that I have done something good with my life or with my time, then I think I'm able to pursue it without fear per se. Because if you think about it, fear is only when there's that I mean, what do we truly fear, right? We fear that there is a negative outcome. We fear that we didn't spend our time or our life wisely. We fear you know negative things. But if you focus on the positive, and there's always positive to most situations, I would say, I've been privileged to have in my life, I feel that all those are more like opportunities. Yeah, so I mean, we're so lucky to be in a safe and comfortable country, society. We don't have to worry about really like life or death things, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the element of fun and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly it's good to have that sense of security. Um, it's also good to hear that you're also human. you know, that you still do have some degree of fear or imposter syndrome. For those folks who were with us, right, or the last session, can you imagine, right, the speaker, the participant, the guest was saying that as he was talking to us on Clubhouse, right in front of him were 20 post-its. And each of these post-its had some sort of inspirational message, some sort of message to like boost his own self-confidence, to say that he's all okay. So we all have to cope, right, with this sort of emotions that are bubbling up. Maybe Phyllis, could you kind of take us back to the time maybe when you were kind of graduating, or or somewhat before that, when you were thinking of doing something different with your life.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna go way back, okay? So this was maybe like my second year of university. So I actually was I did a lot of typical uni kid stuff. My first year I went to a lot of camps, I made a lot of friends, and I think studies kind of took a back seat as well. Like, I think CCAs or like co-curricular activities, yeah, like those were really the focus of my life, I would say, at that time. And then, after staying in my hostel at university for a year, I did something. I did a committee where I was the chairperson of the committee, and then things didn't go so well. As in, the event was a success, but I actually fell out with some of my teammates. So I realized that, hey, I put in so much effort. I did my best, but now it's time to move forward. And I thought maybe moving out of hostel would be a good idea, because I wanted to, immerse myself in a different environment, reconnect with old friends, and also meet new people outside. So I did that. And then I then, one day when I was walking like down the corridors of like uni, and then I realized I was just thinking to myself, like, what should I do with life now that I don't have my CCAs in hall? I don't have my CCAs in hostel anymore. So what should I do? What should I do? And then suddenly, like, someone gave me a pamphlet for a program. And this program, some of you might know, it's the NUS Overseas Colleges. So basically, it is an overseas internship program. And this was for New York. So it turns out they were opening up the New York College for the first time. And this was like, wow, pioneer batch. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try for this. Although I knew very little about startups, and all these internships were based on like the startup ecosystem, all these tech things. And I was like, I'm just going to try this. And then I applied, and then I didn't get there. I didn't make it. And they actually told me, yeah, Phyllis, we don't think you're ready for New York. I don't think you'll be able to face the harsh realities there, and it's a very fast-paced society. So, but we think Shanghai is good. It's something more comfortable for us. You might be able to. I mean, you would definitely be able to learn a lot there. And to be honest, like, Shanghai is this amazing startup hub as well, and I got the opportunity. I was very, very thankful. But I told myself, like, number one, okay, very honestly, number one, my Mandarin Chinese is not amazing. Yeah. and it's nothing inspirational there. Like, that's the real reason why I rejected the offer. And then the second reason is also because I set my mind to New York, and that's where I want to spend like 1 year of my life in. So I was like, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I wrote this really, really long, like, thank you note to like, the team. Yeah. And this was a team of like university staff and, maybe even faculty, and I was like, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm so thankful, really. But I'm going to prepare and do better. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to apply for New York. Okay, so sorry for all of you waiting for the Japan part to come. It's coming. So basically, I ended up, like, working really hard. I went to get an internship, in marketing, and then I came back and applied, and then turns out, yay, I got the opportunity, and I found out from the team of interviewers later, because they then became my friends, right? After getting in, and they were telling me how when I stepped through those doors the first time, the second time when I applied for New York again, they were like, okay, this girl is definitely in because she has grit. So I was like, thank you so much. I don't know whether you call that grit, but I just don't want to like settle. Yeah, and I tried. And don't get me wrong, Shanghai has, compared to New York, nah, it's not that Shanghai is not as good, okay? It's just that what I wanted, like, I wanted to get my goal. So, okay,
Yeah.
fast forward, I made it to New York, and I've never been to that country, never been to America. And I had a great time and I learned a lot. So when I came back to Singapore, I was thinking, I felt that itch. I feel like I'm young. I want to do something overseas again. And, traveling is fun, but it doesn't beat like living somewhere and being immersed in a culture and just having a life there. You do taxes, you learn the local vernacular, like you learn about like, you meet people. I think this is the people, right? And if you travel, you meet amazing people as well, but when you actually live somewhere, you get to build a bond. So I had a really close family friend in New York, right? So I realized, yeah, I want to do this again. And then Japan came up. and I decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go do it again. I've never been to Japan, like how I've never been to America, but I did great. I embraced the opportunity, and I'm going to try. Although Nihongo ga wakaranakatta ne. I couldn't speak not a single bit of Japanese when I applied. And it was so embarrassing. I remember during the interview, they asked me, okay, do you prefer mountains or the sea in Japanese? And I was like, okay, I understand like yama, so yama is mountain. I was like, yama desu. But I didn't even know what I was answering. So yeah, I think yeah. Okay, so TLDR or TLDL, don't listen. I think mainly it was me trying to like set my eyes on something, and then I decided to just I want to do this, and it makes me feel excited. Yeah, I'm not so worried about the uncomfortable part, but I also want to say that this is not amazing or anything, because really I was very fortunate that I'm considering countries where I feel I could imagine myself being comfortable in. Yeah.
Right,
If
right.
it was another country, right, like other countries, I might not be as Singaporean Singlish coming out gung ho about it.
Yeah.
I would be
Yeah.
such a yeah.
So like was Japan in a way even further out of your comfort zone compared to New York, right? Because in New York they speak English, you can get around. You know what mountain is in America.
Yeah, no, Sean, that's a great point actually. So, yeah, actually, Japan was a level up, I would say, because the language was really something that made me very hesitant. I wasn't sure whether I would be able to live life there, actually, make friends. But I was very, very thankful that we had a strong community of like foreign teachers there as well. And they really helped me ease into life in Japan. And then I got to have really, I had great colleagues, Japanese colleagues in Japan. So very thankful, very thankful. And my students too. So yeah, did not see that coming at all.
Could you tell us about some stories, of your time in Japan? Maybe stories of, things that you faced, that weren't so where things didn't go so smoothly.
Right. Yeah, for sure. There were quite a lot of things that didn't go well.
I mean, it could be funny too, right? Like like the mountain and the sea story.
Yeah. So yeah. So maybe I can they may sound kind of boring, but this is I'm just gonna tell you like my everyday life, like the little things that I faced that were kind of difficult. So okay, for sure, everyone, most of us are from Singapore. So yay, sunny Singapore, right? So when I first went to Japan, it was summer as well. That wasn't hard at all. And then came all the typhoons. So they have very strong, like yeah, crazy rain. So in Singapore, it rains a lot already, but nothing compared to the strong winds, and how it could be dangerous, and they tell you to stay home. So that was something that was different. And oh, that brings me to it. Earthquakes. Yes, earthquakes. That's something we don't have in Singapore. Yeah, I won't say it's something that didn't go well for me, because it's like just an episode and then it's over, right? But I really think like that was something that was shocking, I would say. Like I have never experienced it in my life. And I experienced it the first night I was there, like in Tokyo. And it was like something they called Shindo Ichi, which means it's level 1 on the Japanese scale of quakes. So I think like, and I could feel it. I was scared.
So is level 1 like the most extreme one, or does it go up to like level 200 or something?
No. So 1 goes up all the way to 7. I'm not sure exactly, but I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then like there's or like 4 strong, 4 weak, something like that. I can't remember, but basically level 1 is like it's like just a little like
Okay.
I don't know, like a little boogie that you do, and then
All right.
and yeah. So I think so I think the shocks that I got every time there was an earthquake, the shocks I got when like there was this random text that we all got, like, and it says, North Korea just fired a missile. You're like, please take cover. I'm like, huh? Take cover from where? It's 7 a.m. in the morning. You want me to go where? Like,
Go hide in your bathtub or something.
I was like, I'm gonna die if this is something serious. So yeah, I would say yeah. So other than that, I think the weather. I was saying I'm so sorry. I actually just went into this missile earthquake thing, but like winter was hard for me sometimes. I had something called chilblains, so they're kind of like a little rash. And then other than that, everyday life wise, there are some times where I didn't get the. I won't say it didn't go well, but there were some things about Japanese culture that I couldn't, or Japanese living that I didn't understand. Okay, so for example, right, this might be interesting to some of you. So you know how Japanese high school girls they have very short skirts, right? And they're
Uh,
students, they're kids. Sean is like, I don't think I know
no.
that, but Sean's like, oh
Yeah,
really? I
yeah.
didn't know that.
I keep my gaze like, strictly locked on the face.
That's so funny. So yeah, so for those of you who do not know, which I find it hard to believe, but like yeah, so like a lot of high school girls they wear their skirts really short after school, right? And then it's somehow acceptable for high school girls to do that, right? I mean, I wouldn't say that it is celebrated, but people. I think in general, like correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, okay? I might be wrong, but my impression is that people let it pass. They're like,
Yep, yep.
Joshiko say, high school girls, it's how they're like. Yeah, and then but in the city where I was, so that was the thing. But then when I wore like t-shirts, like sleeveless shirts, that could be seen as too revealing. But I'm a
Yes.
grown woman though, right?
Yeah.
and and it's just my arms, like maybe nearer to the armpits, but I don't know what's there to see there. So yeah, so I think that was something. So I had this guy, like this old man once, like I think it was Halloween, and I was wearing this pirate costume, and it wasn't even a
Oh.
sexy pirate or anything. Okay, it's just
Was
pirate
a
costume.
boring pirate, is
And
it like a conservative
okay, maybe
pirate?
not so boring, but
Traditional pirate.
but yeah, like Jack Sparrow. Yeah. So it wasn't. No, trust me, it wasn't even a sexy pirate or anything. And then this old man, this oji-san, just like samukune. So that means aren't you cold? And I'm like, dude, like I know if I'm cold, yo, like. So yeah, so at that time I felt like I committed like this faux pas. So yeah, things like that sometimes. Yeah. I feel like yeah, and I ever had some weird people and like weird like episodes with yeah. So I think maybe for women, yeah, let's just stay safe. But Japan is safe in general. Don't get me wrong. It's just that there are some outliers. Yeah.
Did any of these episodes make you like question your decision to go there?
Oh no, not at all because it wasn't that serious. I'm very thankful for me. And I think maybe this is a good chance to talk about how like I feel very lucky that we actually all of us we could I mean for Singaporean Chinese we could pass off as Japanese sometimes if people don't take a closer look. So I think we don't bear the brunt of racism and discrimination as much
Right.
or almost at all. So I think that's one thing I was very privileged and lucky to have not experienced. Yeah. And it's not that I just feel that I've seen, I've read up on some cases of like, white girls being overly sexualized in Japan. So I think it's very lucky for us to be able to blend in. Yeah.
Right. So I actually know a little bit of Japanese because I
Oh, I didn't
took
know that, Sean.
third language, right? But I would never have had that same courage to go to Japan like you did to become a teacher, what's more. So like even in Japan, when I go there on like holiday and when I'm kind of forced to like respond in Japanese, I take care not to sound too Japanese. I take care to make my Japanese like really lousy. So they kind of know that I'm, like,
Arigato gozaimasu.
yeah, arigato. Oishi desu. Whatever.
Oh, there's someone konnichiwa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have done that a few times when I knew I couldn't keep up, so I just. I mean, I don't speak good Japanese in the first place, so it's not so hard for me to even like to dumb that down even further.
I
So
see.
yeah, but actually, Sean, I want to ask you why though. Like you said, although you studied Japanese, I'm going to just like turn the table a little here, okay?
Sure,
Like,
sure. Yeah.
like why were you not why do you think that this wasn't something that you would have done? Going to Japan to work, maybe not teach, but
Yeah. Like looking back, right? I think I was just never all that confident with my spoken Japanese. And given that, my Japanese is not as good as my Chinese, and I probably wouldn't go to Shanghai either. So it never really occurred to me, that if I wasn't good at Japanese, I could still work there. So there is that self-doubt, that kind of creeps in, right? And tells you that maybe you're just not quite good enough, why don't you just stick with your comfort zone? So it wasn't even something that was terribly conscious. I think it was just something that, never really occurred to me seriously. So I always thought that my level of Japanese was like watching anime Japanese or ordering food Japanese, that sort of thing.
that's already really good, by the way. Like, I get lost when I watch anime. Like, I need to have English subtitles,
Yeah.
especially when it's crazy anime like Attack on Titan.
Mm,
It's like it's a lot of terminology that I just don't get.
yeah,
Yeah. I see. No, but that's interesting point though, Sean. I think like failing forward
Mm-hmm.
is something that I really believed in, especially like maybe when I was teaching in Japan, like and living in Japan. I think failing forward was one of the main things that I held dear to my heart. Like every day is an opportunity for me to like practice my Japanese. It's okay if I'm not good at it. I was very blessed and lucky to have teachers, my colleagues, and my students. They were very forgiving, and friends as well. When I'm not good in Japanese, I think the thing is that we just have to try sometimes. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of people out there who are supportive and kind.
I guess failing forward is kind of a sexy word, right?
Oh yeah.
People throw like words like these around. But what does it really mean for you, right? As you experienced it. So, like, for example, like, you didn't really know Japanese. And how did you get the words out of your mouth? You know? Like,
To be honest, it was a lot of gesturing as well. Like, I would go to Starbucks and I would just point to something and like onegai shimasu, like at the start. Like this, please. Yeah. But over time, I think it's just practicing, and my Japanese is really really not great. But I'm proud of how far I've come, and I think we all should be proud of how far we've come on our own journeys, right?
yeah.
Right? Because I think a lot of times, you're right, failing forward is such a sexy term, and it's pretty cliche as well. And I'm full of cliches, trust me. I'm very politically correct as well. Like, but I end up, I naturally am. So I don't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
So I think, I think it's just, knowing that, I think seeing the opportunity in things, right?
So I remember when I was in the States, and this was during my postgrad. I have a degree, a master's in design, and one of the classes was about making a good case, right, for the designs that you are presenting, that you are putting forward in front of your audience. It was really about presentation skills and being able to speak. And I was in this class with a whole bunch of folks, right? Like foreigners, there was a British guy even, but a lot of Asians, who may be a little intimidated, when they are forced to speak in front of a native speaking audience. And I always remember what the professor said, right? He was like, just say it, even if the word is wrong, and especially if the word is wrong, say it even louder. Because they will get it. You just have to make the words come out of your mouth.
That's so true, right? I think maybe also because I would say that I'm not as fearless as I sound. I think maybe because I was also teaching in Japan, right? And if I'm telling my students every day to be more confident, to just go ahead and speak more English and believe in yourself. Like, there's no reason why I shouldn't walk the talk, you know? And I think improving in my Japanese and being more confident in speaking to like the other teachers in front of the students, maybe that's a way for me to show them that, hey, my Japanese is like gucha gucha, it's like all over the place. I don't speak it well, but I'm just trying every day, so you should try too. Yeah. I think having the students in my life and as a big part of my journey in Japan really helped me live it more positively, more feel forward per se. And I think, yeah, I think when you sometimes I feel a lot of people, right? As much as we think that we are very selfish beings, I think a lot of us are pretty I'm not talking about myself. I mean a lot, really, most of us really. Sometimes when we can't find the strength to do things for ourselves or the confidence to do things for ourselves, right? I think that if we think about how what we do could benefit others, or it could be a good example to others to matter to us, I think we get that strength and that motivation somehow. Yeah. Yeah, so sorry. I don't know. I can feel that there's a silence here. I'm not sure. Maybe you are taking it in, but yeah, I think maybe like everyone who's listening in, that I'm sure there are times in your life where you didn't feel comfortable or confident, but maybe you thought, if I just do this, someone else might be inspired, someone else could benefit, and then you end up being able to find the courage to do it.
Yeah. I was just giving some space for that point to sink in.
All right, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Lynn or anyone else, wants to chime in with a question or something to say?
I think Phyllis mentioned something very interesting, which is that her students kind of made her accountable for her words, right? Because she told her students that they should be confident, not be afraid to make mistakes. So as a teacher, she has to uphold that kind of principles as well. But now that she's back in Singapore, has that changed? Because you no longer have those students around you. How do you continue doing the same thing, or has that changed in any way?
Then that's a really, really good question. So I have to admit, though, coming back to Singapore has made me less fearless than I was when I was in Japan. And I'm not proud of that, but I am looking to change that. I'm trying to, go back to that level of like fearlessness, that level of like, being more open to opportunities and like seeing things as an, like just being more feel forward, basically. I think in when I'm back in Singapore and I'm no longer teaching, I kind of sometimes forget, in the hustle and bustle of it all, I kind of forget that these are good values to have, like being more, having growth mindset, for example, being more feel forward, being more courageous, right? So yeah, Lynn, I think that was kind of sneaky too, because I have shared with you also, like, but that's a great point. And yeah, I think I would definitely prefer if I was more fearless. Yeah, and I think I can always I sometimes look at who I was in Japan and as a teacher, and then that gives me motivation as well in my present. Yeah.
Yep. And maybe kind of looking back at your experience in Japan again, any other memories or any other situations that you like to relive for yourself?
I kind of miss, teaching in front of class, with my students. I think just the everyday mundane life with my friends as well in Japan. I had wonderful friends. We had a community of foreign teachers that we hung out a lot with, and we used to hang out, have Christmas parties. And I think one big part of my life that I don't really have now, which I really enjoyed when I was in Japan, was that here and there I was able to do some volunteering. And I'm not saying that Singapore doesn't have volunteer opportunities. We have a lot. You just have to go find them and then do those. And I'm not sure whether COVID is in the way, or maybe because I'm working a lot longer hours now. In the past, I had a better work-life balance. So contrary to popular belief, right, in Japan, actually people work really hard, yes, and there's a lot of overtime. But in my line of work as a foreign teacher, people tend to be more forgiving because they see you as a foreigner, and then you have these designated hours. So my hours were like maybe from like officially 8:15 a.m. to like 4 p.m. every day. So I think this is like unimaginable for us here in Singapore, right? But with that kind of balance, I was able to study Japanese, my free time, hang out with friends, and also take time to volunteer. And that was really nice, knowing that you could do a little bit more. And yeah, so that's what I really miss. And I think my lifestyle here in Singapore is a lot of work, work, work. So it would be nice to relive that kind of balance, that kind of, and also having sufficient rest, right? I know I can't just have less rest and do more, because I'm quite a sleepy fella. Like I need my sleep. Yeah, I don't know how amazing and like, I don't know, wonderful startup CEOs, like, 4 hours a day. And then I pack my day in 15-minute blocks. I'm like, dude, like 15 minutes is the time I take to think about what the next block is about. like, it just doesn't work for me, you know? So I think, if I could relive anything, it would be just that everyday balance, and
Yeah.
and of course, the traveling. I think all of us want to relive our traveling days because
Yeah.
COVID's taking a bit too long to disappear.
Yeah. There were two words I think you used, or at least two concepts. I think one of them, the first of them, was how you put yourself into a situation where you were kind of forced to kind of like live up, right, to an ideal. Maybe that ideal was like being confident, that you wanted to project that to your students. And so you also were kind of forced to grow in your own way. So there is that element of being in that right environment, that right situation that pushes you along. But that's also balanced with the second piece. And the second piece is forgiveness, right? Like where, the environment was forgiving of you. You had a lot of support, people would kind of like lift you up. And it feels like these are the two ingredients, for anyone who really wants to walk some sort of unlikely path.
Oh, Sean, I feel like, I'm a bunch of like fruits and vegetables, and you're like that blender that mixes it in. like juice. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe that's why I'm no longer teaching English. I'm bad with analogies, but like that's exactly how I felt. Listening to the way you actually succinctly, put together like two concepts and that balance, and I totally agree. Like, no man is an island. So see me and all my cliches, but it's so true. You can't. It's really hard if you don't have I mean, of course, if you have internal strength and motivation, then that's really powerful. But at the same time, for me, at least for me, I think like having a supportive environment, having forgiving people around me actually mattered a lot. Yeah. And I think that's exactly how people make unconventional choices, right? They need to feel right, that they're making the right choice. And a lot of that validation comes, like it's a mix of internal and external, I think. And especially maybe in Singapore as well, right? With our culture being, increasingly individualistic, but we're still kind of very, very concerned about how people look at us.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the external validation is important.
Yeah. So
Support.
it might not be that you became less fearless. It's just that the environment changed, right? The support changed, and your body, your emotions are just responding to that. If we took you out of this place and we put you in a different place, you might become, fearless again.
I've been quite okay. So in the defense of the people that I've met since I came back, really I have had wonderful, supportive people around me, and I think maybe instead of the people themselves, though, maybe we look at the culture, right? In Singapore, when you go on LinkedIn, oh my God, everyone is starting up, raising their next round, becoming a unicorn. It's like we have so many unicorns now. Like, I don't know. It's like, and it gets to me, right? I don't know about you, but and about all of you, but for me, I think I'm very easily affected by, all these things. And it's really weird as well because I think my personality is that I like to cheer people on, right? Like naturally. So I'm very happy for you. But at the same time, after I hit that like button, I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing with my life? But I'm happy for you. So
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's just really interesting to think about, how we can do, I don't know, cherry pick, like pick out the best parts of our culture and our environment, and
Yeah.
also know like what we are more vulnerable to, and then
Yeah.
try and resist that urge to give in, right?
Yeah.
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 So I'm trying to do that every day. Sometimes I think about where I'll be in a year or
Yeah.
3 or 5. I try to be
Yeah.
more conscious of how the present actually really matters more than the future and the past, right? If you think about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we think
Yeah.
too much about the future, or maybe me. I think a lot about the future and I over worry. And I think it's more about living the present and embracing the immediate opportunities in front of me. Yeah.
At this point, are there any questions or thoughts from the audience or any other folks?
I'd like to maybe just jump in at this juncture about like when you were in Japan, you said that you had a lot of inspirational like stories, right? Or maybe you were inspired by a lot of things that happen around you. But were there like maybe some days or some events where I think as we were searching on your Instagram, and then there were a lot of like, children giving you thanks about being a teacher, right? So Japan, teaching them English, right? So maybe share a bit more about that. Like if there's anything that's very impactful and you still keep in touch with them, how?
Yeah. So no, that's a great question actually. So okay, for those of you who have been to Japan yourself, lived in Japan, or know friends in Japan who have done the same job as I have, the students are amazing. They are really sweet, and they will give you all these wonderful cards, and so it's nothing exceptional. It wasn't like I was exceptional. That's why I received like this kind of like love. I was just very lucky, that I was able to be in a culture where the students are, they actually take time to like do these things and show love. So yeah. So yeah, but that aside, I would say like some impactful things. I actually stay in touch with some of my colleagues and my students as well. My closest students, they would still text me and I would text them too, and actually one of them actually even became a mom already. So yeah, I know some of you will be like, what? But I mean, to each their own path, and I just felt so happy when she came and tell me about it, because she just thought it was something that I would like to know. She knows I care about her. And there were also other things like, my colleagues. I had one colleague who I call her my Japanese mama. And she actually she was so sweet. Like it started out, with just like her being the person sitting next to me in the teacher's room, the staff room. And then she would, start to make me like bentos here and there, like lunch boxes when we had bring your own lunch day. And suddenly I felt she was just my Japanese mama because she would look after me, and then she would call me to her apartment, and we would hang out with her husband and even her friends. So that was like some of the most like impactful, like it made me feel that I had family there. Yeah, like I mean, I'm so privileged and lucky to have a wonderful supporting family back home here in Singapore. My parents, my mom, my dad, they were very, very supportive my whole journey. And it was extra comforting to know that even when I was somewhere else, there were other people looking out for me. And there were also some really very touching things that the students would do. There was a student who pulled me aside. She brought me to the music room my last day, and she played me like a song, and she sang to me. And the song's from, I don't know if you watched Coco. It's like Remember Me, right? And then I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna remember you, of course.
Wow.
Yeah, and even just talking about it makes me feel a bit emotional because I just feel so lucky that I actually I mean, who am I, right? Yeah. Oh my. Just so thankful, and I just felt this warmth. And my first school as well, when I left the school, it was my first family in Sendai city, which is the city I was working in. they had this huge party for me, and they even called back the staff that already left the school that I was close to, and they just met up for me, and I just felt like, wow, like why do I even deserve this? It's like, oh my, did not expect that. Yeah, but very, very, very thankful, and I think that's a big part of my life. I've been very privileged to have people around me that are very supportive, very loving. So thanks, people, for being even some of you in the audience, like, you know who you are. Thank you.
Wow, thanks for the very heartfelt sharing. Yeah.
Yes, I'm quite emotional. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah, if anybody in the audience would like to ask Phyllis any questions, feel free to voice out at this point. You can ask her anything under the sun.
Yeah, or if you have a story to share, something that's related, feel free.
Actually, I'm very curious. I've never really used the Clubhouse app. How do audience ask their questions? Like they type in a chat box?
So for the audience, you can raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to speak, and then one of the moderators, co-hosts, Lynn or Yoshan, will promote you to the stage, and then you have the stage, you have the mic. Some of you may be old acquaintances or friends or otherwise of Phyllis. So maybe there's something that you always wanted to ask her, but you never dared to ask the question. So this is the opportunity.
It's pretty unlikely because I think people always ask me things directly. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Yeah, I think they're shy, but let's
okay.
wait and see.
Yeah. Donna wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay. Let me invite her on stage.
Yay!
Hi, Donna.
Yay! Hi, Phyllis.
Anna! We're friends.
Great job, by the way. Come on. Why don't you share your love story with us?
My love story. What?
Yeah. That's also interesting part of your life.
Oh my! Sean! Sean, I need. Okay. What do you want to know, Donna?
From the beginning. I believe Yuzo will be excited too. Hi, Yuzo, by the way.
Oh my!
Okay, let's wait for your story. Bye.
Okay. Maybe in a very I met my current boyfriend. I mean my boyfriend, the current boyfriend. I've not had many. Sorry everyone. I met my boyfriend in Japan, and he also was an English teacher in Japan. So yeah, and I met him my second year, and he was also a big part of my journey. And we did a lot of the interesting things that I mentioned earlier, like we volunteered together, sang songs during Christmas to kids, and it was great. And we're having a long distance relationship right now, so maybe that would be interesting to some people. I've not seen him for almost more than 1.5 years in person. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing him soon. But yeah, if it's about coming back to our topic, right? Could you embrace doing things your way? Yeah. I think definitely dating someone not from your country is not easy. But hey, love is love. So go do your thing, everybody. Thanks for your question, Donna.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Go do your thing.
Oh my God, so cheeky.
Maybe I have a question. So it all, I think it's great, right? That somehow fate or luck or providence or whatever, has conspired to make your life turn out well, to make your life well supported and comfortable. Were there any So my question is this, right? Like, did you get any advice from anyone that you're glad that you didn't take in the end?
Oh wow, Sean. I was nodding my head to myself. Did you get advice from anyone? I got advice from so many people that you did not take and you were glad you did not take. Oh,
Yeah.
that twist. Okay. Did I though? Okay. Off the top of my head, no. Because I think I have very supportive people in my life.
Yeah.
For some people who I wouldn't say it was advice, right? But they were concerned, and it's quite funny. These are not my family members; they're my friends actually, who really care about me, right? So they had their own concerns, like Phyllis, like you're going to go to Japan. I thought it's 1 year. Why did it become 3? Are you going to be able to find a job when you come back? And I think these are concerns that I'd be glad I didn't let the fear control me, right? I'm glad I listened to them though, and I try to be conscious of these things when I do my decision making. But I would say I'm glad I did not let fear guide me. Yeah, and I'm going to be very honest with everyone. When I came back to Singapore, I was very worried I couldn't find a job because I taught English, right? So I'm saying that although this whole thing is about being fearless and everything, it's not without its consequences. It comes with a price. The opportunity cost is that people my age who do marketing, I'm doing marketing now, they have 5 years of solid experience in marketing. But here I am with only 2, right? So it makes me a lot less employable, I think, compared to my peers if I'm looking at a marketing career. Yeah, so of course, that's one of the things that I considered and did not really think very deeply about. So when I actually lived it, when I came back, I couldn't find a job for about 3 months, and then I got a job very soon after. I was very thankful, right before COVID hit, right? So I think, I feel like if I let that fear, dictate my next move, maybe I would have come back earlier. Yeah. But thinking about all the wonderful things that happened, and like I said, no regrets. I just feel so thankful that I didn't let fear guide me.
Could you relate to us or describe to us what was that conversation you were having with your fear?
Oh, I think okay, it was more like thinking, so they're all questions, right? It's not super organized thoughts. It's just a lot of questions in my mind. Like, okay, if I come back, if I cannot find a job, how? If people are not convinced that teaching gives you transferable skills, how?
How? Is the Singaporean how? So how?
Yeah, so how it's like, there's a lot of all these things that I talk to myself a lot. I was like, okay, I'm staying for another year and yet another year. What if people think that, I can't do anything and I don't know anything about startups, I don't know anything about Singapore's economy? How? so there are a lot of worries like that, of course. And, I talk to myself. And then I would say, okay, but wait. If I stay another year, right? What would I be able to do? Oh, I'll get to spend more time with the people that I've met there. I would get to build my relationships with the people I met there. I would get to teach my students a little more. And interestingly, actually, in my city, right? So the teachers were not fixed at one school. Okay, so yeah. So actually, my first 2 years, I had a base school that I was 4 days a week. And then 1 day a week, I would rotate, I think 3 different elementary schools, like primary schools. So basically, after the end of my second year, I would have already taught at maybe 6 schools because there were some changes and stuff. And by the time I was in my 3rd year, I taught maybe 9, 10 schools. And yeah, because there's a lot of rotation, right? But I had a base school, right? And I think in my 3rd year, you get a new school. So I was thinking to myself, okay, of course, going to a new school may not be a good move. I may meet people that are not as warm, welcoming, sweet. But I decided, you know what? I'm just going to try anyway. And then I told myself also, there's so many things that could go right. Don't think about only the things that go wrong. Yeah. And then that really helped me in making my decisions. Which I think is something that I would love to do more often now, today, in Singapore. Now that I'm back, I always think about what would go wrong, what could go wrong. I don't think about what could go right as much as I used to.
Yeah, well said. Maybe it's the culture of comparison, I guess, and I think that's what you touched on briefly, where like everyone wants to grow a horn and become a unicorn.
Yeah, everyone wants to be a unicorn.
like, what do you think is going on there?
I think maybe, yeah, I think this culture of comparison though, like this is just my theory, okay? Like it's not backed by anything, and it's just, I studied sociology in university, so I tend to have I have a tendency for looking at things, like I try to think about the social in it, the society and things. Yeah. So this culture of comparison, I think, could come as a result of, like, us being so homogenous as a society. We call ourselves quite diverse. We talk about our multiculturalism. We talk about how people have different roots. But if you think about it, though, like, we all have pretty similar roots. We go through school, we come out, we get a job, and then the guys go army, right? And all the guys go to army. Then I talk about homogeneity. And yeah, and then I think, like, the goal BTO for anyone who doesn't know is built to order, which is basically talking about getting a flat, an apartment with your other half, your heterosexual other half in Singapore. And I think it's very interesting that, like, we have such a typical route to follow. There's a roadmap already. And in Singapore, if you follow the roadmap, you're gonna be well taken care of. That's the good thing about Singapore, right? We have our CPF, which is basically, you call that the pension fund. It looks after you. And there's a lot of strict rules surrounding it, although it's your money. And I think it's very interesting how we end up on such similar trajectories. And when you do that, when you have that kind of society, then people are, it's easy to make comparisons. But let's say when I was in Japan, I had a lot of foreign friends, right? And my foreign friends are from all over the world. They're from New Zealand, they're from America, the UK, and Philippines, and everyone is so different, And although our paths converge and we all teach in Japan, it's so nice and so refreshing to see people who are confidently single in their 30s, don't want to ever get married, don't want to ever have kids, and some people, like, they're just figuring out life. I have a friend who's like, she laughs at herself, I'm just gonna follow my Japanese boyfriend and husband now. I'm just gonna follow him everywhere in the world. I'm not gonna care about my career, ha ha ha. I'm underachieving, haha. But she says that though, but it's not underachieving in any way. Like, she's so fearless, she is entrusting her life to a person that she met, and she's come to trust. And I think that is so, fearless and so interesting and so different from how I imagine my life to be, right? And it's just beautiful how you see different kinds of people. And I have friends who bought their new apartment. I mean, they're building their house, like building it, literally with the floor plans and everything. And yeah,
You mean like
in New Zealand, and I'm
like hammers and
okay, maybe not to that extent, but but that's crazy. And I have another friend in the UK. She just bought her own house by the lake, and I just feel like it's so interesting to meet different people and to hear about how different your lives could be. And then you have less reason to make comparisons. You don't have basis for comparison anymore. And then all you do is just celebrate people's wins and your own wins, right? You don't look at what they don't have because you don't see it. You just see what they have and you see what you have, and like, oh my god, we have such different things. You don't think about what you don't have anymore. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of coming back. I think that is still one of the biggest challenges for me. Like that comparison, and yeah.
That's a super fascinating point, that if everybody is doing their own thing and pursuing their own choices, then there's no comparison, right? Because you're just on your own path, right? Like, why are you comparing with the other person's path, right? That's not what you want.
Yeah, yeah, it's I mean it's so true, right? Because you wouldn't look at someone and be like, huh, but you don't have that. You know, you just don't do that anymore. Or like you won't look at them, oh, I don't have that. I mean, I'm not gonna think about building my house by the lake. We have no lakes here in Singapore. I don't know. It just doesn't, right? So I'm just celebrating what my friend has, and I think that's a big part. You know, being such a homogenous society, and then it's easy to be like, oh, you have a BTO by 30, you married by 27, and then it's easy to make your wedding. What, you had it at whatever hotel? Like, it's so easy to make comparisons, I think. Yeah, so that's why I try and like negotiate my space in this world sometimes. Like even now coming back, I try and try and pursue different things for my future. When I think about my life ahead, I feel a bit tempted to do something different. So then I have no way of not measuring up, or I would have, and this is more like a personal thing, right? I don't think anyone looks at me and be like, ha, she didn't achieve that. And if anyone out there is doing that, I don't really care about those people. But I don't think they exist. People in general are nice. They look at themselves, and when they do that, it's because deep down they feel like they don't have something the person has. Right? It's all about us. I don't think people look at, but they are not good at blah blah blah. Usually it's because they feel that that other person is great at something else that they're not, that they personally are not, right? So yeah, I think it's all about internally we have to fight that. Some people do it successfully. I mean, a lot of people here in Singapore I know as well, like Donna, who just spoke, was one of them. She lives life by her own terms, and she's amazing. And I think people can do that, but some of us, like me, I'm admittedly weaker, you know, to my surroundings.
Weaker?
Yeah, like I give in more to like, external pressures, or more like not pressures, internal pressures that I put on myself as a result of external conditions. Yeah, so I think definitely I want to be more like fearless. I want to be more, remembering that like I could embrace doing things my way, right? And even in a society like Singapore, I think, yeah.
You mentioned that you were negotiating your way.
Yeah, my space in this earth, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
your
when I say
space. Yeah, I think space. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more like, think of it like me and, society talking to me, or more like the internal, internal like demons talking to me. And then, when you say negotiate, like when I say negotiate, I mean like, every day is like a step forward or is it a step back, or to the left, to the right, it's like, think of it like a dance. And I think every day there's like kind of a tension for people who are lost, or people who are not so clear about where they're gonna be in a year, or like, if this is the path they want to take in life. So yeah, for me, I think like, my path right now like seems typical. Like I came back, I have a normal 9 to 5. Not really to 5, because everyone in Singapore, we don't do 5, right? We say we do, but yeah. So I think yeah, I think my life is still hopefully I still have a lot of runway of life in front of me, and let's see where I end up and where all of you end up actually. Yeah, you never know, something changes.
So we have Jared here.
Hi.
Hi, Phyllis. I'm Jared. Your story's amazing. It's a bit of a Hollywood story, I thought. Right? The girl who can't dance, choreographing something, and then kind of just, and then somehow finding your way to New York and then Japan and finding a hot Japanese boyfriend. It's a great story. One thing, so thank you for that.
You're hilarious.
It's true, right? I feel like it's and then it's just gonna keep going. And it's gonna be awesome. One thing I've never heard anyone say quite as much as you is how susceptible they are to peer pressure, to pressure from outside, right? Because it's such an unsexy thing to say. It's not really acceptable, right? We're supposed to be independent, supposed to follow our own path, which kind of is the theme for today. So that struck me quite a bit, that you were so open about allowing others to shape you, right? That sort of vulnerability. And when you were sharing, I found really striking this idea that allowing others to shape you was a kind of powerful, positive force, right? It wasn't just like peer pressure in a kind of negative sense of just following the crowd. It was allowing, because you were a teacher, you allowed others to kind of give you the strength, right, to do something you wouldn't otherwise have. But in this later part of this conversation, we're talking about comparisons, where looking at others was not quite a good thing. So I don't really know how to frame my question. It's really a bit of a puzzle about how to compare these two things, right? This idea of that looking outwards for validation, for support is a good thing, but at the same time, there are problems with it. So that's all I had to ask.
No, Jared, thank you so much for your hilarious and really I think it's really kind as well for you to celebrate my life like that. So thank you, Jared. And I actually, to your point though, I think maybe like fundamentally like connecting the two theories, like how external forces could be positive or negative. I think essentially it's basically the way I look at the world, right? I mentioned how I study sociology, so I see things with a social lens, and I always see the environment and culture and the people around me as part of the way I look at life, right? And I think like for me, having being conscious of all these things and all these external forces and how you can never escape them, right, is actually very helpful because then you understand yourself better, right? And I think another thing that you mentioned is that how people tend not to talk about peer pressure and the external influences that we have because it's not sexy. We're all supposed to be individualistic, and I totally agree with you. And I think why I want to share it so openly is because it's my personality as well. I'm not really good at not wearing my heart on my sleeve. But the other thing I want to mention is that if we all try and project this well put together image, right, like what good does it do to other people who are having their struggles, right? So I think I think most people are open, if they realize by perpetuating a perfect image they could hurt others, then they will be more conscious about not doing that. Yeah, so I don't know, just my 2 cents. Yeah. Because I don't want people listening to be like, oh my god, she's so cool. Like, that's not true. It's not true. We all have our own battles. We all have our own challenges and our own successes as well. Like, anyone here in the crowd, like, anyone really has an equally or even way more exciting story to their lives, but we just don't know it, right? And they also have had their share of like struggles. And currently, like a lot of people also have like mentally they struggle and emotionally as well. And I don't want to be one of those that people look at and think that that yeah, their life is great, I want to be like that. No, don't be like me. And nobody wants to be like me too, but I'm just saying, like, we shouldn't want to be like anyone else but ourselves, because like really we're like the champions in our own journeys. Yeah.
Which is why I thought your story was such a powerful. I said Hollywood, but maybe that's not what I mean, right?
Oh no, you're so kind.
No, because you had failure in your story. It wasn't just a Disney movie, right? It was you tried something, you tried to go to New York and it didn't work, and so you had to try harder. There was failure in that story, and I thought, of course, that was what made it human. That's what made it relatable, right? And again, one last thought, but thank you, Phyllis, was that I think this is very helpful for me to think about, to challenge this idea of kind of being the lone wolf, right? It's cool to be the individualistic hero, as you say, but this sort of vulnerability, this sort of, you said no man is an island earlier, and I think it's precisely this. And you kind of admitting this and saying this loudly and proudly is powerful. So thank you.
You're so kind. Really, really, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
So, Phyllis, would you have any questions for any of us? So you can turn the tables on us, and now you can be the one shooting us all these difficult questions with a twist at the end.
Wow. Yeah, actually, I would love to hear more about like Sean, you started Stranger Conversations, right? Yeah. And I think you mentioned what Stranger Conversations is about, but did it come from something like, internally? Is it because you've always wanted to do something different, but maybe we're not convinced, or you have done something different, but people were telling you like you shouldn't? Like what made you really want to start Stranger Conversations? Because I really like the idea of it. When Lynn first approached me and she told me about it, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I'm not really one who listens to podcasts, or like I wasn't even on Clubhouse before this, but I can
Yes.
totally imagine myself listening in the
Oh,
future.
nice. Thank you. There are multiple ways to answer this question. One is that coming from this coming from this culture with lots of comparisons, as you mentioned, lots of similarities, lots of expectations, to go on a particular pathway, I feel that same sort of restrictions, right? I feel that same sort of constraints, that same sort of limitations that you felt as well. And even coming back to Singapore, as much as the community has been supportive, you also felt that you became a lot less fearless, right? So there has always been a part of me that was kind of pushing back against that. But I've come to realize that if it's just the individual pushing back against that, it's really hard because living within yourself is not just you. There are like many other voices that don't know come from where. And these voices are having that debate, that discussion with you. Sometimes they're putting you down, sometimes they're saying good things about you, sometimes otherwise. And that's where I think the whole sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely, right? It's like, thinking about how to be a bit different in this society. So that's one. Okay. Another way of answering this question is by profession, I guess. I'm like a user researcher. I'm a design thinker. I'm a UX sort of guy. I'm not sure how familiar you are with these terms or these professions. And
Oh yeah. I'm familiar with unicorns, so trust me, I'm familiar with what UX and
yeah,
UI is.
yeah. And so, one thing that I've learned from the profession is that when you talk to people, possibilities emerge, right? It's not really about going to Google and doing some desktop research. It's not necessarily about running a survey and finding some data points, right? It's when you kind of get in touch with the energy of another person that you kind of start to get convinced, right? That there are possibilities, So, like when you talked about how differences were beautiful, I mean, if it's just on a page, differences are beautiful, yeah, whatever. But when you say it and you kind of back it up with your story, then people's eyes, people's hearts, my eyes, my hearts, right? My heart starts to open, right? And I think more of us could use this sort of inspiration, inspiration that doesn't come from an expert, inspiration that doesn't come from somebody's on the stage of like a TED Talk, right? Someone that comes from your milieu, your environment, someone that's very relatable. I think that has so much more impact. And we kind of put ourselves down because we think that we're not good enough. But I think everyone has that sort of capability to them and the capability to influence others. So that's the second way of answering the question. And the third way of answering the question is the third perspective, right? Is that I think everyone has kind of different skills and different backgrounds or different things they bring to the table. So one thing that I was super impressed, right, with you, Phyllis, was like the Instagram story that you put together. You had all the gifs and like the smiley sushi, right? When you're trying to promote this session today. Then I'm like, yeah, you clearly got a skill, right? Like in reaching out to people, making them feel comfortable, raising them up, right? As you mentioned. So
I just things.
like it's small little things, but I think it makes a big difference. Go check out Phyllis's Instagram, everyone. Yeah. So like, if we want to do something different, if we truly want to walk a different path, and if we want to go far, I think we have to bring people together to spark ideas and to collaborate. I mean, today is just kind of like a casual chit chat session, but yeah, who knows, right? What could happen in the future, when let's say we bring together our skills, our inclinations, our passions, and in that overlap, something really different could happen, right? We don't do this overlap enough, right? That's why, I mean, in Singapore, like, like you've got so many like very conventional occupations and jobs, but then where are the unconventional ones, right? The unconventional ones come from the overlap, come from the cracks, right, in between the conventional ones. And what I hope to do eventually is to catalyze something, right, through this process.
Wow, Sean, I actually really like what you said earlier. You said getting in touch with people's energy, right? You didn't just say people, you just said like their energy. And I think that's such a good point because sometimes we think like we know someone's story, but when you really, really go and talk to them and then you hear their stories, you hear it with their emotions, the way they narrate their experiences, right? And there's something different about hearing it from someone like they're like instead of reading it. I mean, words are powerful, you can read it and you can feel it, but when you really get together and you converse and you have a chat, there's all these non-verbal cues, the smiles, the laughter, the tears. I think that adds a lot of there's a human dimension to it, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm not really much of a wordsmith, or like I don't read a lot. As I famously declare, my closest friends know, I love reading articles and but that's about it. Don't get me to read through like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. Like no. So I I think I love what you said, and I think if more people come together and talk about their experiences, and actually what you said about how people who like the unconventional ones, they're like not really fall through the cracks, but like in betweens. I like that a lot. Yeah. And I also think about how people with conventional paths, inverted commas conventional, maybe if you really talk to them, you realize that their paths weren't conventional at all, and then you realize, hey, if conventional goals are what I want, I can take an unconventional approach to it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I think one of the hypotheses that we had, or the guesses that we had, right, going into this Stranger Conversations journey, is that more people than we think actually want to do some sort of unlikely path or walk some sort of unlikely path of their own, in their own way, right? So like superficially, they may look a certain way, but in their hearts, either they're already trying to walk or they've already walked pretty far. And we just don't know about it yet.
Yeah. So true, so true. So yeah. Anyone else has questions?
I do. Hi,
Hi,
Yang here.
Fang's my cousin.
Okay. Anyway, cousin or no, I think that I have a couple of questions that I really like to ask. From your point of view, yeah. So I'm not sure if I missed it. Is there a country that you like to settle in? I know you like traveling, but is there any country that you like to settle in?
Wow, Fang, that's a great question. So sorry, there's a crazy motorcycle that vroom. Okay, yay. Okay. So Fang, thank you so much for your question, Fang. Is there a country I want to settle in? Okay. To be very honest, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I really don't know if would it be Singapore, Japan, or like America. Like, I really have no idea yet because I think it's more about weighing the opportunities for living a comfortable life. And when I say comfortable, I think we all have our different definitions of what's comfortable, right? So I think for me, definitely knowing that me and my partner will be able to afford life and have a decent apartment. And yeah, so sorry, I'm having a blocked nose, so if I sound funny, I'm sorry. Wasn't feeling too well. So yeah, I think opportunities matters a lot, and other than that though, family and friends is a huge factor that would help me make my decision. And even if I can't live in Singapore, I would definitely love to fly back often. Yeah. So yeah, to that question, no, I don't know where I would like to go. Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question. So we're talking about like living your dreams as well as being practical to, the life, like, money basically, right? So right now, do you think you still, go do something like that, like live your dream more than, thinking about the finances part, like not earning a lot lah. Basically, you'll be able to survive, but dreams outweigh, luxurious life perhaps.
That's a great question, Fang Fang. I think maybe because of our age as well, right? Like, okay, so thinking about I'm 29 this year. And I would think that if I want to, get married, have kids in the future, I should start saving up. I should, prioritize earning money. And that's what I've been doing. And I think also because of COVID, right, you don't really have a choice. Like we can't really like book a flight ticket somewhere and then, a one-way ticket and then yeah, I'm gonna go to Japan right now. But Japan doesn't want me because because of COVID, right? So I think right now my focus would be on like earning money and trying to save up. But in the long run though, I think if you I like how you call it dreams versus like, the luxurious like, life, being comfortable financially. And if it's like dreams versus financial goals, right? Correct me if I'm wrong if that's not the question, okay? I think in the long run, I would really, really I hate to say this, but I think I prioritize dreams but not at the expense of like I'm not going to like live on like white bread every day. I'm allergic actually to white bread. That's quite funny. uh like I'm not going to live like a life where I have to struggle to make ends meet, right? But I'll try and find a dream that works for me, where I'm able to earn a decent living and have savings for the rainy days, for medical if you ever need them. And yeah, and then pursue what makes me happier. Because if it's about climbing the corporate ladder here and if that comes at an opportunity cost, whether it's like living a happy life with the people that I love, or having sufficient time to enjoy life, right, then maybe that's not what I want. Yeah, it's easy though to feel lost sometimes. I do get lost, and I do think about how I wish I could earn more money, do more things. And then I realize after a while, if I really had the chance to choose a path, right, I think I probably would still choose the one that makes me happier. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for answering your questions. So, as a movie buff, right, I actually one of the movies that come to mind is Disney's Up.
Oh
So where
my.
the couple, right? They do whatever they're happy, and they don't earn a lot, but they save
Paradise
up. Yeah,
Falls.
yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah. Paradise Falls. Okay, good one. Thank you so much.
Fang Fang, actually, it's quite funny you mentioned Up because I think we watched that movie together. I
Wow,
think.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, I think we went to the cinema. The only time we went to the cinema together. So yeah, thank you, Fang Fang.
Thank you, thank you.
So we probably have time for maybe just one more question, either from the audience or from Phyllis, from anyone.
Maybe if we have no questions, I could take the chance to say something.
Yes,
So
please.
just looking at the users in this room, right? I just want to say thank you so much. Other than other than the people who have asked questions, everyone I see who are in this room are actually people who know me. So this is what I mean when I say I'm surrounded by people who are very supportive, who really care. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to call in. And yeah, I just feel very thankful that I have, friends and family that care. And I think it's quite nice, right? How I mentioned how, our surroundings or the people around us support us on our journeys. And then bam, this is something new, and I see friends here and family here. So thank you so much, guys.
Yep. And then maybe I'll just say a few words, a few observations before wrapping up our session today. So we started out with this question, right? How might you embrace doing things your way? And that question seemed to suggest, it was either you embrace doing things your way, or you just kind of go with the flow and don't do things your way, and go with what other people or what culture or what society thinks is the right way. But really, when we get into that sort of setup, either this or that, you kind of get stuck. I think, and I'm really glad, of all the stories that Phyllis, you have shared today, because it does suggest a third option. And what is this third option, right? I really loved how you said that there was beauty in differences. It's not just beauty, actually. Paradoxically, in differences, there is solidarity. In differences, there are reasons for people to come together. Paradoxically, when there are too many similarities, people start comparing, and that kind of pushes people apart. So when you have these differences, it's interesting that you are in this environment where you get support, and also you have this element of discomfort that is pushing you along. So there is supported discomfort. So differences means supported discomfort. And at the end of the day, it's not really you who is embracing yourself, right? You're actually allowing others to embrace your doing things your own way. So I think that's the answer to the theme of today's session.
I love all the paradoxical things and all the oxymoronic terms that came up, but that's so true, right?
Yeah.
Life is never like black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks everyone today for listening in, for your questions. Thank you, Phyllis, for sharing so openly. Although we didn't get to hear that much about your hot boyfriend, hot Japanese boyfriend.
He's actually Japanese American. So,
Yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
get to
even
see
hotter. Yeah. Thank you, and we'd like to build something here. We'd like to build a little community here of folks who want to hear stories, right, from people on unlikely paths. So give us a follow on Clubhouse, and we'll be happy to make you a member of this club as well, so that whenever we have a session, you'll be notified. And in the description on Clubhouse, there are also you can find our IG channel. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. We do have interesting folks lined up, actually. Not confirmed yet, but on the schedule we have folks who went on a road trip from Singapore all the way to China, and then they wanted to go further, but then COVID struck. So they couldn't complete the road trip. We have folks who are like helping refugees, get jobs. We have folks someone who brought a Mongolian tent, a yurt, from Mongolia all the way to Singapore. And if you have any folks whom you think, would love to also share as a guest, please let us know. Right. Yeah. And have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you.
people coming up. Yeah. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.